Comedies of Ageism. This is a book review of Kingsley MS's The Old Devils by Swati Batra. To start with, Malcolm serves as the mouthpiece of the author as he says something very important which can help us to identify the main theme. Everywhere new here is the same as new things in England, whether it's a university or the restaurant or the supermarkets or what you buy there. What about this place we are in? Is there anything in here to tell you you are in Wales? So basically the novel surrounds around the Welshness and being in Wales. So it's about identity crisis that these old devils are going through because what they associate themselves with is nowhere to be found in the current world. It's about a community of senior citizens, and this community is made up of retired Welsh pensioners who do nothing else than drink heavily, the men in the back room of the Bible and Crown pub, and their wives in the privacy of their homes by sending each other invitations to consume bottle after bottle of assorted wines, which basically is a kind of escapism that they are. It's a medium of escape. Alcohol is a medium of escape for them because they cannot live with the reality which which is not good for them at all. As in when we grow old, we start losing hold over things, and that includes the physical aspect of it. That means the body is not in our control. That makes us come to the second point. The elderly ladies speak about their marriages, sex, whilst exchanging tidbits of gossip. Much of the conversation revolved around slipping dentures, dietary restrictions, dwindling physical energies, and no detail is spared about the time spent in toilet, whether success is finally attained or deferred to the next visit. Again, as I said earlier, it's vivid in terms of the details given related to the physical aspect of human body. The title. The title is The Old Devils, a group of Welsh married couples, all in their 60s and 70s. Malcolm, an unsung local writer, is married to Gwen. Peter Thomas, a chemical engineer, is and his wife Muriel. Charlie Norris, the proprietor of a restaurant, and his wife Sophie. Percy and Dorothy Morgan. Garth Pumphrey, a former vet, with his wife Angrat, now attends to business at a local pub. They're old and retired and they do little else than drink. So a device that Kingsley MS has often used to lower his characters' defenses and reveal their true emotional state. So we can say that this drinking habit is something that Kingsley MS is using to reveal the real me of his characters. As Sophie says of her husband, I never realized how much he drank till the night he came home sober. A revelation it was. There is absence of a central hero character, which is nothing but a narrative technique. The Old Devil dispenses with any central narrative agency by introducing many different characters and their stories diverging, interweaving, dovetailing into each other. The main diegetic thrust is afforded by the returns to Wales of Alan Weaver, a retired media figure who made a reputation for himself on the coattails of a celebrated Welsh poet named Bryden in the novel, who's unmistakably based on Dylan Thomas. Rhiannon, his wife, was once the belle in the local community. Their return revives memories of youthful lesions, relationship, indiscretion, a situation that is compounded when egotistical Ellen sets out to re-woo the three women he had affairs with in the old days. Muriel says early in the novel, I don't think that news about Weavers, Alan Weaver and his wife, is good news for anyone. Talking about the ending, the Old Devils mixes up different recipes for novel ending, incurring the risk of narrative deja vu in the process. First, it cynically disposes of the main characters. Ellen Weaver dies an accidental, undignified death, and that only by choking on his whiskey and water and falling forward as a result of a stroke. Then it stages a wedding among the new generation in the best tradition of Shakespearean comedies. Such half-baked multiple endings might at best be deemed to shun any one-track determinism. That means Kingsley is want to say, like, you cannot determine the ultimate end. There is no end. So life goes on as it has always been. Neither human nor spiritual comfort blusters their sagging lives and flagging souls. So Malcolm speaks of all the characters and probably for MS himself when he responds to a question about believing in God. It's very hard to answer that. In a way, I suppose I do. I certainly hate to see it all disappearing. Matlab, there is nothing to hold on to, as in the three pillars of society, to use Ibsen's title of a novel. There is nothing to hold on to. Even religion is church going, Philip Larkin. So, plot summary to sum up, the novel opens with Malcolm and Gwen at breakfast and quickly takes in his inability to bite food with his front teeth, his doctor's orders to curb smoking, and a thorough evaluation of his difficulty with bowel movement, physical aspect. Charlie drinks to excess daily, and in the company of MS surrounds him with that is a feat. Peter suffers as well. He has gained massive amount of weight. His getting up procedures were less taxing to the spirit than Charlie's and Malcolm's, but they were no less rigid. They had stopped being what you heedlessly through before you did anything of interest, and had turned into major event of his day. But they do not on balance bemoan their fates. MS allows them a surprising degree of containment. The complaints they have with one another are so well worn that they have lost the ability to really irritate. Muriel and Gwen chew over Rion's shortcomings, coming on down hard on her airs and graces at her age. But they still agree you don't get skin like that out of a tube, and that carriage you're born with it, or you're not. So at least they accept the fact that she's more good looking than these two. Becoming old, the men treat Ellen in a similar fashion, but both groups are peaceful on balance. In fact, a highlight comes when Ellen proposes the man to take a car trip together in service of a television show he has contracted to produce. They fear play provincial management to the hilt, but it's humble and congenial affair until they get kicked out of the pub at the end in decidedly low-key manner. So this is a subplot where they go for a car trip. So they along the way they visit an old friend named Billy Mogger, and one-time cricketer and sporting goods dealer, later proprietor of a local off-license. Uh, Ellen was closest to him, and none of the men have seen him in years. But they are unprepared for a small white-haired man who moved slowly but steadily over to the group, smiling and looking from face to face. He wore a burgundy-colored silk dressing gown with small white dots and a similarly patterned scarf high on one side of the neck, where it covered most of the reddened swelling. Ellen and Laura, his wife, between them, told him who everybody was, and he shook hands and spoke in a thin voice. The visit passes without incident, but the men leave shaken. Shaken? Why? Because this encounter with Willie and his wife Laura, reminds them of what lies ahead. That is peril and old age at some other level. They will become even older in the near future. Most touching is their discussion afterward of how pleased Billy's wife is by their visit. Her invitation to Ellen struck him as off-handed, but the men wonder how small her hopes were. The sandwiches she offers, they conclude, might have been an opportunity to show her hospitality, but they console themselves with the idea that it might not have meant too much extra effort on her part, bar the bread. Charlie says 2 large loaves. She got that in off chance, not negligible, I agree. Still, Peter considers how many times she must have told herself, of course, nobody would come. Again, loneliness that comes with old age. How disappointed she would have been if nobody had. For half an hour out of 24 times, God knows what. So, this is loneliness is part of becoming old. None of them is as thin as Billy, and their wives enjoy frequent social engagements, but he is their year senior. That's why peril lies ahead. Failing health, the loss of friends. So ultimately, they feel happy that at least they are together and they can enjoy these beautiful moments of friendship. They go on their way chastened, and though they soon find relief and laughter at the expense of their absent acquaintance, Garth, their pleasure is muted. Again, Malcolm, the one we started our discussion with, the prospect of being caught in that unguarded moment, unwelcome enough early in life, is even greater threat to dignity at Malcolm's age. So what is he doing here? He's playing Disneyland jazz records while waiting for his friends to arrive. As always, he listened intently, trying to hear every note of every instrument. Too excited to sit down, he stood in front of the playbox and shifted his weight from one foot to the other in time with the music. At appropriate stages, he took a turn on an invisible banjo, beating out steady equal four, did all any man could in circumstances with run of a trombone smears, punctually signaled a couple of crushes on the Turkish cymbal. This moment of mild abandon turns to terror when the doorbell rings, until he saw that yes, he had pulled the curtains. He was afraid he might have been observed from outside, some treat for the neighbor, an old stir capering about like a mad thing. So how following your passion is something that is not expected from old people. The restrictions that come with old age, that you cannot enjoy your life to the fullest because public opinion is something that does not allow you to do anything and everything that you want to do. Conclusion. To conclude, the old MS study of a Wales and Welshness that have slipped out of reach forever, and this clearly shows a culmination of his increasing damnation of Western society, portrayed through microcosm of human relationships. The final figure is of one aimlessness of old age, meaninglessness of much of life itself. That is, ultimately there is old age, and after that we have death. By the end of the novel, one character after another has uncompromisingly attacked television, media, abstract art, trendy pub decor, rude teenagers, children, shoppers, rock music, Arab ownerships of shops and pubs, anything that smacks of arty and folksy Welshness. The point, says Malcolm, is that Wales is following the trends from England and has found a way of destroying the country not by poverty but by prosperity. The decline and decay, he says, are not the real problem. We have faced that before and we have always come through. What he abominates is the spacious affluence. It's not the rubble I deplore, it's the wild crop that has sprung from it. Both extremes, decay and affluence, are suggested by the homes the characters occupy, and unhappiness characterizes either extreme. But we can also say that there is new hope at the end, because Rion turns to Peter, her love of 40 years before. She finally forgives him after his long ago abandonment, and the two begin to look forward to spending their last year together. Obviously, Rion's husband, Alan Weaver, has just died, and Peter's wife, Muriel, has never been much interested in him. The other positive is the wedding of Rosemary, Weaver's daughter, and to William, son of Peter and Muriel, suggesting the replacement of old generation by the new, which is one sense is heralded by the author as sign of progress and fulfillment. So there is somebody to look up to, because Rayon's daughter Rosemary and Peter's son William, they get married at the end. Despite the overriding negativism in the novel, there is some positive redemption. MS pictures two relatively attractive people, Rosemary and William, who show promise of living and working together peacefully, using their energy to make a new world instead of destroying an existing one.